My childhood best friend, an alpha, taught himself hypnosis. His first subject was me. We kissed, we touched. After messing around for months, he was finally ready to confess his feelings. Just not to me. His friend asked him, "Don't you like your childhood buddy? Why else would you hypnotize him?" Sean just shrugged. "I'm a full-blooded alpha. Why would I ever be into a beta? It was just for practice. I'll snap him out of it in a bit." That's when it all clicked. I pushed the door open and walked in. I pretended he broke the spell, took back all my affection, and went after the rival he wanted me to chase. But later, when I had my secondary presentation and became an Omega, he regretted everything. Today's my birthday. Sean threw a party for me. He invited all his best friends to come. I don't really know them that well, but I've been following Sean around like a shadow since we were kids. So his friends are, by extension, my friends. It doesn't matter if we're not close. As long as Sean and I are, that's all that matters. Most of them are alphas and crammed into one private room. Their scent was so thick that even as a beta, I was starting to feel breathless. Halfway through, I felt so overwhelmed I had to step outside for a few minutes of fresh air. They thought I'd gone to the restroom and started talking about me. "Hey Sean, Kyle's just a beta. Why is he always stuck to you like glue? And he looks like he's totally crazy about you. Is there something going on between you two?" Sean let out a soft laugh. He explained casually. "Crazy about me? Nah, we just grew up together. It's just a habit." He was fiddling with a lighter, the rhythmic click sounding like a drumbeat in my ears. Dense, anxious, yet full of anticipation. I've been teaching myself hypnosis lately, and he's the most convenient person to practice on. So I hypnotized him into thinking he's in love with me. His voice dripped with the innate arrogance of an alpha. Didn't think it'd work on the first try, but it did. Sean paused, then added, "But I've had my fun. I want to have a real relationship now." His friends asked, "With Kyle?" Sean was quiet for a few seconds. Then he scoffed. "Are you kidding me? This Martin." A friend, confused, asked, "You don't like Kyle? Then why'd you hypnotize him?" Sean was dismissive. "I'm a full-blooded alpha. Why would I ever be into a beta? He was just the perfect subject to practice on, that's all. I'll snap him out of it in a bit." The room went silent for a moment. Then they all burst out laughing. I knew it. No way an alpha would be interested in a beta. "Damn, Sean, you're something else. We want to see what Kyle looks like after you break the spell. See how different he is. So if he rejects you, you'll just hypnotize Martin? That's way too convenient." Sean just smiled without saying a word. The drumming in my heart gradually faded until it was completely silent. I pushed the door open and walked in. I sat down next to Sean with a smile and asked him, "Ready to go home, Sean?" Sean had his legs crossed, one hand propping up his chin. He crooked a finger at me. "Come closer, Kyle." I obediently leaned in, staring into his eyes. As his finger swayed, my focus started to drift. "Kyle, the hypnosis is lifted. Wake up." With a snap of his fingers, I blinked as if in a daze. Then I suddenly came to. I shoved Sean away in disgust, putting a good 10 feet between us. "Why are you so close? That's disgusting." Sean froze for a second. Then he couldn't hide his pride and satisfaction. A mix of emotions flickered in his eyes, finally settling into a cool, detached smile. "You spaced out. I was just reminding you to light the candles and make a wish. You're 20 now. Time to wish for a quality partner, don't you think?" My heart felt heavy and damp, but I didn't let it show. I went along with his words. "I'll take that as a blessing, but I'll skip the wish. I'm not a kid anymore, and I don't want any cake. I don't like it." Sean's face fell. "But you used to love it. I had this one custom made for you." I propped my chin on my hand and chuckled, scooping up a bit of frosting with my finger. I playfully smeared it on Sean's face. Am I not allowed to dislike it now? In reality, I wanted to smash the whole cake in his face. Sean chuckled, catching my finger and bringing it to his lips. He licked the frosting off, a deliberately intimate gesture, then let go, as if nothing had happened. "All right, Your Highness, if you don't want it, you don't have to eat it." His friends watched our interaction. A chorus of whistles and murmurs filled the air. The way you two act, it's like you've been together for years. Serious question, are all childhood friends like this? I gave a half smile and pulled out a wet wipe. I cleaned my finger. I find it weird too. Maybe Sean is just like this with all his childhood friends? He even gets mad if I try to pull away. I turned my head, looked at Sean, and reminded him for the millionth time we're both adults now. Maybe we should have some boundaries. Sean just shrugged, unconcerned. We're both guys. What's the big deal? Besides, it's not like you're an omega. My heart skipped a beat. I had no comeback. Back when he was so intimate with me, I just assumed he liked me too. And I just happened to like him. We never said it out loud, but I thought it was our unspoken secret. Turns out, he never took me seriously at all. It was just the casual intimacy of two people who grew up together. But in my mind, we weren't close enough to kiss, to touch each other's bodies, to do everything lovers do except for the final step. I was even starting to hate myself. Why did I pretend to be successfully hypnotized by Sean? Why was I so delusional? Why didn't I just ask Sean outright why, out of all people, he chose to hypnotize me? Arguing or questioning him now would be pointless. It would just make my feelings seem cheap. Better to play along and let him revel in his confidence. Thinking this, I poured myself a glass of red wine and downed it in one go. What's wrong with being a beta? Does that mean I'm here for you to mess with? Stay away from me from now on. Don't get in the way of me finding someone. Sean gave a smirk, leaning back. He draped his arm behind me on the couch. You're really going to look? You can't get into a relationship before I do. He was always saying things that made me misunderstand. But now my heart suddenly stopped racing. I could even handle it calmly. Why not? Don't tell me. You're in love with me? The question I'd agonized over 1,000 times but never dared to ask. Now it just slipped out. Sean's expression froze for a second before he let out a mocking laugh. Kyle, I never knew you were so narcissistic. He was wrong. I used to be way more narcissistic than this. That's why I misunderstood for so long. Suddenly, I couldn't be bothered with his mind games anymore. I just drank a lot in silence. Sean took me home, made me honey water, and put me to bed, just like he'd done 1,000 times before. Sean and I grew up in the same gated community. Our parents were good friends. They shared practically everything. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say we were joined at the hip. So, after getting into the same university, we just bought an apartment off campus. We lived together. Sophomore year, Sean suddenly got interested in psychology. He bought a ton of books to study. Sometimes he'd even watch online courses. I was curious and asked him what he was doing. He said he wanted to teach himself hypnosis. I never had a good feeling about psychology and all that. The family of Martin from the community next door was in that line of work. Martin himself had these dark, unsettling eyes. Every time you met his gaze, you felt like he could see right through you. And while he was usually cool and aloof, when he snapped, he was like a total psycho. Plus, for some reason, he always had it out for me. He was the only one who knew I liked Sean. Every time he saw me, he'd mock me. Little follower. Coward. It made my blood boil. But since Sean was interested in this stuff, I temporarily set aside my prejudice and studied with him for a while. It was actually pretty interesting. Doing anything with Sean was especially interesting. The first time he tried to hypnotize me, I subconsciously did exactly as he said. It wasn't because he was some self-taught genius. It was because I wanted to listen to him. He said, "Kiss me." My heart hammered in my chest, and I obediently kissed him. From then on, things spiraled out of control. I naively thought he was into me, too. For 3 whole months, I let him coax me into doing so many embarrassing things. I was a total clown. I lay in bed, my eyes shut tight. The faint taste of honey was still in my mouth. It wasn't sweet at all. It was bitter. So bitter I couldn't stop the tears from falling. The next day after class, Sean went to the psychology department, and he dragged me along, claiming he needed me for moral support. He said he was nervous. I let out a dry laugh. Like I was watching a show, I urged him to hurry up and confess. Martin was a prime omega, the most beautiful prize in our neighborhood. Countless alphas flocked to him, but he never gave any of them the time of day. I'd only ever seen him show a different expression to one person, a contradictory mix of disgust and affection. It was his stuttering adopted brother. I knew at a glance he was in love with his brother, just like he knew I was in love with Sean. So when he laughed at me, I laughed right back at him. Sometimes we'd even get into fights. For all these reasons, Sean was destined to fail today, and sure enough, he was rejected without a second thought. Sean's face went pale for a second. Then his confidence returned. He pulled Martin over to a bench in a small grove of trees to talk. As they were talking, he raised his finger and began to wave it slowly and rhythmically, trying to hypnotize Martin. Who was Martin? A psychology major. But even he couldn't figure out what Sean was trying to do. Annoyed, he asked Sean if his hand was cramping. Watching from a distance, I almost died laughing. But then my smile faded. Damn it. Such a clumsy hypnosis technique. It would only work on an idiot. And I was that idiot. Sean came back looking completely defeated, still unable to believe his hypnosis didn't work on other people. He called his buddies to go drown his sorrows at a bar. I didn't want to go. He wasn't having it. He physically dragged me there. I took a deep breath. I didn't want to blow things up with him just yet. I still wanted to see how the rest of this drama played out. So I went with him. Sean said it was his treat. I went hard, ordering 10 bottles of wine at 10,000 a pop. And I started chugging. Soon enough, I was passed out on the sofa. They all thought I was blackout drunk. And they started talking freely. His buddy said, "Sean, are you sure this hypnosis of yours isn't fake?" "Sean, impossible. I've never failed." A friend said, "What if Kyle already liked you and was just pretending to be hypnotized? Otherwise, try hypnotizing one of us." Sean flatly refused. "No way. None of you trust me, so it'd be hard to successfully hypnotize you." They shot the breeze for a while. "Then it must be that Martin doesn't care about you either. You need to get on his good side before you try to hypnotize him. But I heard he's got this attack dog around him, who's both his brother and his bodyguard. That attack dog stutters when he barks, but his pheromones are supposedly insane. You didn't run into him today?"
Sean snorted.
"That little punk has to go back to the Johnston Corporation every Thursday to give a report. He's wiped out for a whole day after. Where would he get the energy to deal with me? He's just a stray dog. Nothing to worry about." He swirled the red wine in his glass, deep in thought, and came up with a nasty plan. That bastard, just to prove his hypnosis was the real deal, wanted to hypnotize me in front of everyone. He might be nothing to worry about, but he's still annoying. You guys say Kyle only pretended to be hypnotized because he likes me. If that's fake, then if I tell him to go confess to someone else, he won't do it, right? If he does it, it proves my hypnosis is effective. No sooner said than done. He shook me awake, hypnotized me, and told me to go after Silas. My fists clenched just a little, but to keep his confidence up, I nodded obediently. Okay. I play along with his show. Right then and there, I texted Silas. "Shade, I like you." The reason I call him Shade is because of his dark, bronze skin. Sexy as hell. I've been calling him that since we were kids. Martin hated it, said it was lame. He forbade anyone else from using it. So, of course, I did, just to piss him off. Silas never said anything about it. He barely paid attention to me. He barely paid attention to anyone, not even Martin. He was like an NPC, who he beat up anyone who bothered Martin. Little did he know, he was the one who bothered Martin the most. Everything was already a total mess. I decided to pour some gasoline on the fire, make this four-way love train wreck even more chaotic. Everyone thinks I'm the nice guy. They think they can bully me. I'll play them all to death. Silas replied with 6 dots. Me, silence is consent. Silas. What about Sean? Me, you like him? Me. I'm going to pursue you. Silas. Did Sean send you? Me, you catch on quick. Already have a master? This little stutterer. He even stutters in text. Pretty amusing. The whole group watched me text. Sean and his friends exchanged a look. Kyle's a quick thinker. Huh? He's a pretty good flirt, too. Even Silas knows he listens to you. Sean, are you really okay with letting him chase someone else? Sean, unconcerned, treated the hypnotized me like I wasn't even a real person. He's been listening to me since we were kids. Even if he gets a boyfriend, he'll still listen to me. What's there to lose? Right, Kyle? He patted the back of my head and asked with a smile. I lowered my eyes, then looked up and gave him an obedient smile. Whatever you say, Sean. Sean's eyes glowed with triumph as he sipped his wine. Meanwhile, he was harassing Martin on his phone. Silas at least sent me some dots. Martin didn't even give him that. Just a clown. A strange sense of superiority washed over me. I wanted to see Sean fall even harder. I wanted to see him completely destroyed by love. And for that, I was willing to sacrifice myself, even willing to drag others into it. Maybe I'm just a psycho, but who cares? Worst case scenario, when all this blows up, I'll just go study abroad. Isn't that what all the rich kids do? I'll mess with them and then I'll bounce. With that in mind, I enthusiastically sent a few more texts to Silas. Shade, you even stutter when you type. When don't you stutter? Do you stutter in bed? I really want to hear you moan. The night is so dark. Makes me think of my shade. Silas, where are you? Generally speaking, alphas don't usually moan. I typed out a string of ha-ha-ha-has. So, are you an unusual alpha? I got carried away. I didn't notice that Sean had put down his phone. He was watching me flirt with another guy, his face dark. After a long pause, he said out of nowhere, Kyle, you're pretty wild, aren't you? Where'd you learn to talk like that? I looked at him with an innocent, clueless expression. Didn't you tell me to do whatever it takes to win him over? Sean was speechless. You'd better be doing this because I told you to. I blinked and tilted my head slightly. Who else would I be listening to? Sean looked like he'd just eaten a shit-filled chocolate. Pleased, but not really. His friends tried to smooth things over. Come on, Sean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Kyle might be good-looking, but he's not an omega in the end. Even if he gets with Silas, it won't last. The Johnston family would never let him marry a beta. He'll come back to you. Sean actually bought it. He nodded. You're right. Kyle can't live without me. Like hell. I can live without anyone. To get away from Sean, I moved into the dorms. I even thought about changing my major. Before, I just blindly chose whatever Sean chose so we could be together. My family has an alpha older brother, so it's not like I'm inheriting the family business. My only job is to live a quiet life. As long as I don't cause any major problems, my family can fix it for me. To be honest, my life is as ordinary as my designation. I've never done anything out of line, except for falling for an idiot like Sean. Getting mixed up in this love thing. It really does lower your IQ. You always end up doing stupid things. Getting revenge on him would be the last stupid thing I do. After this, we'll go our separate ways. When Sean saw me moving out of the apartment, he was baffled. He grabbed my suitcase and asked, Why are you suddenly moving out? I was even more baffled. Silas lives in the dorms. It'll be easier to pursue him if I live on campus too. Sean was silent for a moment. He let go of my suitcase. A strange half-smile played on his lips. You're being a little too obedient. I gave a shy smile. Did he not remember the suggestions he'd planted when he hypnotized me? That my favorite person in the world was Silas. That I had to pursue him no matter what, by any means necessary. And that it would be best if he had no time to hang around Martin. Wasn't I doing all this just to create an opportunity for him? I'm such a great person. Of course. I had my brother pull some strings to get me in the same dorm room as Silas. It's perfect since I'm a beta. I won't be affected. Sean's fingers curled slightly. He said meaningfully, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Even betas can be affected by a prime alpha's pheromones. This happened before. I didn't believe him and gave a flippant laugh. How is that possible? I've been stuck to you for so many years, and nothing's ever happened. Or what, are you not prime enough? For years, all I knew was that Sean's pheromones smelled like strong liquor, but I'd never actually smelled them. Betas can't perceive pheromones. They can only vaguely sense the pressure. That's why alphas stand at the top of the social pyramid. They're born superior. Sean's face darkened, and he pushed me toward the door. You're talking too much. If you're going, then go. I left the apartment we had shared for nearly 2 years without a backward glance. I felt like without Sean, even the air seemed fresher. I dropped my fake smile, my lips turning down. My footsteps were heavy as I walked through the school gates. Silas had a dorm room all to himself. Ever since he came of age, he'd insisted on moving out of the Johnston family home. But he never slacked on his duties. Martin had been frail since childhood and needed someone to watch over him. So the Johnston family carefully selected and adopted Silas. He was quiet, obedient, and had excellent genetic traits. Whenever Martin wasn't at home, Silas had to watch him around the clock. He couldn't let any harm come to him. Before, they always went to and from school together. After starting college, Silas had to pick Martin up for school and take him home afterward. As for their time on campus, they were in the same classes. Silas had a stutter, which made him completely unsuited for studying psychology. After all, jobs in psychology require communication and listening skills. But he had no choice. To repay the Johnston family for adopting him, he needed to protect the family's precious son at all times. The most rebellious thing he'd ever done was move out of the Johnston home after turning 18. He was basically a walking tragedy. At least that's how I saw it. But to others, this was the kind of good fortune Silas had earned in a past life. Countless people would kill for a connection to the Johnston family and got nowhere. But he was chosen from a young age. He had food, clothing, and endless resources. I didn't have much interaction with Silas. Because Martin didn't like me, I didn't like being in the same space as him. The only 2 times I remember seeing him clearly were when Martin, in a fit of pique with the wooden-faced Silas, accepted Sean's invitation. He went out to get drunk and dance wildly. The first time, he got alcohol poisoning. The second time, he started hyperventilating from the stuffy air. Both times, it was Silas who saved him just in time. But the punishment still fell on Silas. The sound of a whip often echoed from the Johnston family's ancestral hall. It usually landed on the same person. Those 2 times, Silas's punishment was especially severe. So much so that when he returned to his courtyard, he collapsed in an alley, and no one knew. I've always liked climbing onto the roof to bask in the moonlight. I found him like that twice. I didn't do much, just quietly carried him back to his room, cut off his shirt, and put antiseptic and healing ointment on his wounds. That's all. He couldn't do anything. He struggled to say even 2 words of thanks. He would stutter on just 2 words. Other than feeling he was pitiful and a little cute, I had no other impression of him. What about his impression of me? I had no idea. But when he saw me in his dorm room, his eyes went wide. Did you run away from home, Lameo? Did he really see me as that much of a rebel? Silas had always been a little straight-laced. No wonder Martin both loved and hated him. Seeing him up close like this, I wanted to tease him, to see if he could make any other expressions. So I dropped my suitcase and approached Silas with a grin. Didn't I say I was going to pursue you? This is just me getting a head start. Silas had dark skin, so it was hard to tell if he was blushing. I was a little disappointed. Wouldn't that make things less fun? He acted like he hadn't heard me, studying my face for a long time with a frown. He guessed, Did you and Sean have a fight? Just hearing that name now pissed me off. It reminded me of my former, idiotic self. What does he have to do with it? Silas looked a little lost and pursed his lips. He lowered his head, but he still said what was on his mind. I can't know UL like him. How does everyone know? But Sean doesn't? And I thought nobody knew? I suddenly felt a surge of anger. I lost the mood to tease Silas. Who likes him? A ghost, maybe. After saying that, I messily threw the sheets on my bed. I was sweating from the effort, so I went to take a shower. When I came out, shirtless and brushing my teeth, Silas had just gotten off my bed. The previously wrinkled sheets were now neat and tidy. The only other time I'd seen something like that was from a drill sergeant during basic training. I held up my toothbrush, pushing my luck. You had these skills and didn't help me sooner? Silas had been very anxious, his expression stiff. Hearing this, he gave me a strange look. He even apologized. Sorry. I have OCD. You made it too messy. You're putting me down. I won't forget this. I huffed and quickly finished brushing my teeth. I crooked a finger at him. You made my bed, so I'll treat you to dinner. You in? Silas hesitated for 3 seconds and nodded. I changed clothes right in front of him, not treating him like an outsider at all. Alphas don't care about betas anyway. When I finished and turned around, I saw Silas had his back to me. Both hands were covering his eyes, like he was afraid of accidentally seeing something. It was so damn funny. Sean always stared straight at me when I changed. I, on the other hand, didn't really dare to look at him, afraid I couldn't hide my expression. Sigh. There I go again, thinking about that bastard Sean. I threw an arm over Silas's shoulder. He was too tall, so it was a bit awkward. I silently let my arm drop. What's wrong? Afraid you'll get an eyeful? Silas slowly shook his head. Si no evil. I asked casually, you've never seen Martin? Silas's whole body stiffened, and he shot me a dark look. Don't ask. Ask weird things. So he's seen him. I chuckled. And shut up. It's hilarious. I can usually see through people so easily. How come I'm only now seeing through Sean? Was my heart covered in lard? Damn it. Thinking about that bastard again pissed me off so much I chugged a 6-pack of beer and passed out. I don't even know how I got back to the dorm. I was woken up by Martin's shouting. He'd heard from somewhere that I'd moved into Silas's dorm and came storming over, yelling and screaming, demanding to know why Silas would live with someone else instead of him. Silas didn't say a word. Like a mute, he just stood there with his head down like a servant who'd done something wrong. Martin's face flushed with anger, and he raised his hand and slapped him, trying to force him to talk. Speak. Are you mute? I told you to answer me. The slap snapped Silas's head to the side, and a red mark appeared even on his dark skin. The faint imprint of 5 fingers began to surface. He didn't stay silent this time. He said softly, please be quiet. Don't disturb others. Let's go. Go outside to talk. Martin had been spoiled his whole life and never learned to control his temper. Seeing Silas protecting me now made him even more furious. He launched into a hysterical tirade, spewing insults and abuse. His arrogant attitude was a perfect match for Sean's. I couldn't watch anymore and raised my voice to ask him, are you saying you, a Prime Omega, want to live with a Prime Alpha? What's that about? So hard to guess. Martin's round, almond-shaped eyes bulged as he glared at me, like he wanted to eat me alive. He's my property. I can do whatever I want with him. It has nothing to do with a useless beta like you. Yep, even more alike now. It seems he and Sean both don't see other people as human. I can't believe a guy like this will work in the psychology field. Or does he just need to manage, not empathize? It made me laugh. Your emotions are too unstable. You're not suited for psychology. I suggest you change your major. The business school would be a perfect fit with Sean. Martin's delicate, long eyebrows furrowed deeply. Why are you bringing him up? Then he nodded, thinking he'd figured it out. I get it. You finally got dumped by him for real, so now you're lashing out at the world. He looked up at me fiercely, threatening me. I'm not someone you can just mess with. You'd better move out and stay away from Silas. This is bizarre. My family's status isn't any worse than his. Is it just because I'm a beta that he thinks he's superior to me? This is a dorm room, not your private property. Don't act like I'm the one squatting here. Martin was taken aback. He poked Silas in the chest and ordered him, you move back to the Johnston house. Do you hear me? Silas went silent again. I couldn't stand it. Are you his father or his mother? You're way too controlling. Have you ever stopped to think why he doesn't like you? Is it that hard to treat someone like a human being? Silas flinched, glanced up at me for a second, then quickly looked down again, showing me the dark crown of his head. I caught a glimpse of a numb, desolate expression. He didn't look like someone who just turned 20. The air felt suffocating for a moment. Martin was thrown off by his reaction. He started smashing things in the dorm room. Finally, he started hyperventilating and was sent back to the Johnston house by Silas, who covered his mouth to help him breathe and skillfully gave him his medication. He didn't come back all night. When he did return, his gait was unsteady, and you couldn't touch his back. He wouldn't dodge, but he would flinch instinctively. I started to blame myself. Should I not have dragged this poor kid into the feud between me and Sean? But the arrow was already on the bowstring, there was no turning back. I wouldn't be satisfied if I quit now. So all I could do was be nicer to him and then a little nicer, to make up for the harm my selfishness was causing him. I asked Silas, Shade, can you not go back to the Johnston house? He had a scheduled debriefing at the Johnston Corporation every Thursday. But he had a stutter. He was bound to do poorly. It was mostly silence. Mr. Johnston would ask a question and he would answer, like an NPC. Mr. Johnston would be dissatisfied and would resort to corporal punishment. He wanted him to be quiet and obedient, but also to be fluent, like training a dog. I only knew about this because my brother went to the Johnston Corporation to discuss a partnership once. He saw it with his own eyes. When he came back, my brother sighed and complained. I don't know why the Johnston family adopted Silas. His life isn't much better than an orphan's. A prime alpha like him could make it on his own anywhere, but he's shackled by this debt of gratitude, being worn down by their whole family. If he worked for me, the world would definitely have one more talented individual. So I asked about it, without paying too much attention. After all, Silas was doing this voluntarily. Voluntarily obedient, voluntarily repaying his debt. But now, perhaps because I was closer to him, I felt a bit protective. I also didn't understand why Silas didn't just leave the Johnston family. After all these years of bowing and scraping, taking beatings and verbal abuse, any debt should have been paid off. It's not like he spent that much of the Johnston family's money. What was left to repay? Silas was in the bathroom for a long time, probably tending to his wounds. I only asked because I smelled the faint scent of blood. He heard me, but he didn't answer for a long time. Soon he came out wearing a t-shirt. He looked at me, then lowered his head. Only then did he answer, "This is the only use I have to repay my debt, or I can't go to school." He seemed ashamed of his stutter. He usually avoided talking as much as possible. But it seemed that whenever I spoke to him, he would always reply. I hadn't noticed before, since we had little contact. Now that we were living together, I realized his double standards were glaringly obvious. It was kind of cute. Seeing his anxious expression, I felt a little bad. In my eyes, he was already an incredible person. It was the Johnston family that was wearing him down, diminishing his confidence, and torturing his dignity. Did Martin really think people just develop Stockholm Syndrome? That kid grew up surrounded by love, why couldn't he learn how to express it properly? I sighed and sat down at my desk, beckoning to Silas. It's hard to treat your back. Come over here, I'll help you. Silas obediently took off his shirt and knelt in front of me. Tage, thank you. See? Such an obedient guy. What's so hard about being nice to him? I don't get it. All I can think is that Martin is an idiot. Martin really is an idiot. To get back at me, he gladly accepted Sean's invitation to go party at a club. He even gloated in front of me, saying that if I made him miserable, he'd make my life hell too. I rolled my eyes. If he went to a place like that, Silas would definitely have to follow. He said it was his duty. If you ask me, it would be easier if Martin just had a sudden medical emergency and dropped dead. Of course, I could only think about it. I went with Silas. After all, I was still hypnotized by Sean and had to be Silas's loyal follower. Martin thought I was copying him, deliberately trying to annoy him. He was so angry he started chugging juice. He was allergic to alcohol. No one dared to offer him a drink. Sean gave me a look, signaling me to get Silas out of the way. He was afraid of Silas, because Silas had beaten him up twice, beaten him up badly, and it was me who tearfully tended to his wounds, telling him to stop taking the fragile Martin to do dangerous things. Sean had a wide circle of friends, Before this, I thought he was just trying to get along with all the peers in the neighborhood. I didn't think too deeply about it. Turns out I was the one who was clueless. All that sympathy I wasted on him. Thinking about this, I cursed myself internally. I chugged a glass of alcohol. I pretended to be drunk and asked Silas to take me to a lounge to rest. Silas glanced at Martin. His expression was, of course, black as ink. But he still helped me to my feet. "I'll be right back." I looked back and saw Martin biting his lower lip, his face grim. Sean sat down next to him, smiling as he spoke. "Martin, consider getting engaged to me. We're a perfect match, don't you think?" I didn't hear the rest. Martin probably didn't either. I had just reached the lounge and was pretending to be drunk, clinging to Silas and begging him not to leave. A few minutes later, Martin entered the lounge and locked the door. Martin leaned back against the door, staring straight at Silas. He seemed to realize something, and his broad back began to tremble. He stammered, "Martin, don't do this." "Do what?" Martin let out a soft, increasingly distorted laugh. "I'm gonna do it anyway." I didn't know what was happening invisibly between them. I just felt the air grow heavy. My throat felt tight and uncomfortable. I thought I smelled something other than alcohol, like a rich jasmine scent. Was it Martin's perfume? But most alphas and omegas don't wear perfume. I heard that mixed scents can be unpleasant. I think I really was a bit drunk. My nose wasn't working properly. I rubbed my temples, dazed. Silas's breathing became ragged, and blood seeped from between his clenched fingers. Let's talk outside." Not in here." Martin tilted his head, a sick smile on his face. It was chilling. "I want Kyle to see what an alpha losing control over an omega looks like. A beta? What right does he have to steal my things?" I couldn't listen anymore. He was using his pheromones to induce Silas to lose control. I stood up and tried to pull Silas away. His wrist was burning hot. It seemed he was inevitably affected by Martin's pheromones. Sean, that useless piece of trash. He couldn't even keep one person from leaving. And he still dreamed of pursuing him? I shoved Martin away, but he suddenly clutched his chest, gasping for breath, like an asthma attack. His heat and hyperventilation were happening at the same time. Silas instinctively caught him, covering his mouth and nose. At the same time, the veins on his forehead and neck bulged. He was fighting his instincts while protecting Martin. "Mr. Kyle, could you please get a car ready for me? To take us back to the Johnston residence." This was the only option. I couldn't just open the door. The pheromones of a prime alpha and a prime omega were like an aphrodisiac. The bar was full of people of different designations. I was afraid they would swarm in. I called my brother. My legs felt weak, and I collapsed onto the sofa, closing my eyes. I couldn't be bothered to watch Martin seductively entice Silas. "Brother, look at me. I'm so uncomfortable. Give me some of your pheromones. Please, His alluring voice sent a shiver down my spine. It's not that I didn't want to save Silas from this ordeal. I felt like I was being affected by Martin's pheromones too. My whole body was burning up. Or maybe I had too much to drink, raising my body temperature and heart rate. In short, I didn't have the extra energy to worry about others. Just as I was about to bite my own tongue off, the door was opened. It was Sean. This was his family's club, so he easily forced the door open. He finally did something right. He gave Martin an inhibitor shot with a dark expression. Then he carried the unconscious Martin out. His powerful presence shielded Martin. He didn't even glance at me. I thought the farce was over and breathed a sigh of relief. But Silas paused, then suddenly slammed the door shut. He leaned against the back of the door and slid to the floor. His long legs spread wide. Long arms, long legs. So good looking. I smiled hazily. I asked him, "You should go to the hospital too. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine after a little nap." Silas tightly covered his nose and mouth, the veins on his forehead throbbing. He shook his head fiercely. "And no, you have a scent. I'll stay with you." "I have a scent? How is that possible? I'm a beta." My mind went blank as a strange, new desire washed over me like a tsunami. I thought I smelled another scent. a faint sweetness. It was so hot, I couldn't help but unbutton my clothes and turn the air conditioning to its lowest setting. But it was no use. At some point, Silas had started biting his own arm. What was this guy doing? Did he enjoy self-harm so much? Was he a masochist? But from his blood, a wonderful woody scent seemed to emanate. It drew me towards him. When I couldn't walk, I crawled. Silas was terrified. He backed away along the wall like he'd seen a ghost. Don't run. I just want to check your wound. He didn't listen, always keeping a 10-foot distance from me. This game of cat and mouse was a bit ridiculous. Thankfully, my brother arrived quickly. The moment the door was kicked open, his face changed. Without a word, he kicked Silas with a dark expression. Then he took off his suit jacket, wrapped me up tightly, and carried me out of the club, straight to the hospital. On the way, he kept cursing Silas. I thought that damn kid was a good one, but no, Alpha is a good person. From now on, I'll beat him up every time I see him. I was dazed, my head spinning. I didn't understand what he was saying. I got a shot at the hospital and passed out. When I woke up, the doctor told me I had been stimulated by a prime alpha's pheromones and had undergone a secondary presentation. I had become an omega. I was a little stunned. If this had happened before, I probably would have been happy. After all, then I could be with Sean without any worries. But I'm glad it happened now. Otherwise, how would I have ever known what Sean really thought of me? Although my brother had expected it, he was still furious when he heard the doctor's words. He immediately had Silas tied up and brought before me, forcing him to kowtow and apologize. Silas was injured again, his face pale. Only a few hours had passed, and he hadn't even managed to protect himself. I was a little angry. He knew how to protect Martin, how to protect me, but he didn't know how to protect himself. Was he an idiot? So, I was too angry to even look at him. My brother pointed at him and let loose a torrent of abuse, blaming him for everything. Silas only had 3 words. I didn't. He said it very slowly, his voice as light as a feather, without stuttering. He kept repeating it. It was heartbreaking. I couldn't help but turn and glare at my brother. Why are you yelling at him? How long have I even been with him? And being in the same room with him is comfortable. I don't feel that invisible pressure from alpha pheromones. You're an alpha too, can't you tell? He has never released his pheromones in front of anyone. Otherwise, why would you have agreed to let me live with him? My brother was at a loss for words. Of course, he knew. He had heard of cases where betas were induced to present by prime alphas. To ensure I grew up safely, my mom had forbidden my dad and brother from releasing their pheromones at will, including Sean. My brother had kept a close eye on him before college. Perhaps because after adulthood, one's designation is almost fixed. The chances of a secondary presentation become very, very low. They only reluctantly agreed to let me live in an apartment with Sean because they saw how much I liked being around him. Lately, I had been occasionally feeling the oppressive sense from alpha pheromones, mostly at the club. I didn't think much of it, just assuming the club was crowded and the mix of pheromones made me feel stuffy. Thinking back now, maybe Sean never took me seriously, so he never thought to restrain his instincts for my sake. Induced presentation requires long-term influence, and Sean had probably been doing this for a long time. I gave a bitter smile. I was the one who was blind. It's not anyone else's fault. My brother was just anxious. When he came to pick me up, he only saw Silas and jumped to the wrong conclusion. After calming down a bit, he knew who was responsible. He punched the wall and was about to go beat up Sean. I stopped him. Bro, I don't want anything to do with him anymore. Let it go. It's my fault too. My brother didn't listen and rushed out anyway. I heard they found him in an isolation room at the Sean family's mansion. He couldn't get a hit in. A prime alpha and a prime omega need at least a day and a night to bond during their heats. That's right, Sean had devoured Martin. He said he had intended to take him home, but Martin's pheromones were too strong, and even the inhibitors had little effect. He couldn't resist the temptation. He had stripped him naked in the car. Sean's mother had wanted to forcibly separate them, but Martin, consumed by lust and in a weakened state, cried and begged for it. Sean also clung to Martin and wouldn't let go. There was no other choice. After consulting with the Johnston family, they hastily arranged a verbal engagement. For now, the two were locked in an isolation room to wait out their heats. During this time, the Johnston family gave Silas a severe beating. They called him a traitor, unable to even protect his own brother. The beating was so harsh that when Silas left, he fainted in an alley. This time, no one saved him. He woke up on his own, and before he could even breathe a sigh of relief, he was aggressively tied up and taken away by my brother. Looking back at the whole thing, it seems Silas was the only real victim. I didn't really care. I didn't lose much. Whether I was an alpha, beta, or omega with my family background and mindset, I could live a wonderful life. Other than being induced to present by Sean, which was a bit nauseating. I had no other discomfort, so I recovered quickly. I even had the spare energy to apply medicine for Silas. This time, Silas avoided me. He clutched his clothes and wouldn't take them off. The wounds have a smell. It's not good. Prime alphas and omegas can usually control their pheromones well, but their bodily fluids, especially their blood, contain a large amount of pheromones. If they get injured, they can't control the release of their pheromones. Before, I couldn't smell it, and his injuries weren't that severe. He hadn't thought about it that much. But now that I could smell it, he kept his distance, which just made me want to be mischievous. I deliberately got close to him. I said I was going to pursue you. Am I afraid of this? Or are you not letting me pursue you? Silas was stunned for a long time, looking like a silly but obedient large dog. After a while, he lowered his head and said softly, don't. I waited patiently for him to finish. You don't have to pursue me. I curved my lips, a sly look on my face. If I don't have to pursue you, then who will? Silas didn't get it. He looked completely baffled. He asked innocently, Can I pursue you? So cute. I'm getting a little thirsty. I licked my lips and mimicked him. You see, can pursue me? The poor dog was completely lost. But he understood that he could pursue me. He secretly curved his lips into a smile, looking like a mouse that had stolen cheese. This was the first time I'd seen him smile. He was usually so wooden, so pitiful. Damn, so much fun. I hate that I discovered his cuteness so late. I only ever knew he was pitiful. How many years did I miss? Sean got what he wanted and got engaged to Martin. Even though Martin didn't want to. He hated Sean, Silas, and me. He hated me the most. He believed that without me, he and Silas would already be together. They could be both family and lovers. He was obsessed with his pseudo-incest fantasy. He hated me so much he constantly harassed me at school, always trying to beat me up. Silas would stand in front of me. That made things even worse. Martin would have a full-blown fit. Whose bodyguard are you? Why are you protecting someone else? Without the Johnston family, you'd be rotting in some gutter right now. You ungrateful piece of trash. You maggot. You waste. No matter how much he insulted him, Silas wouldn't say a word. But I couldn't stand it. This was someone I cared about deeply. Why should he be insulted like this? I pulled Silas behind me. I raised my hand and slapped him. I don't care if you're sick or just pretending I'm not putting up with it. I'll slap first and ask questions later. If you have no manners, go home and learn some. Why let a lunatic like you run wild? Have you ever considered other people's feelings? Martin was stunned by the slap. He had been coddled his whole life, held in the palm of their hands, afraid he'd fall. He was always the one hitting others who would dare hit him. He completely lost it, and was about to get into a catfight with me. But his slap landed on Silas's chin. I was pulled into his embrace, my head pushed down. Damn, it feels so good to be protected by someone you like. Was Martin kicked in the head by a donkey? Silas had protected him since they were kids, and this is how he treats him. I think it's not his body that's sick, it's his brain. Thinking this, I said it out loud. Martin, who had been acting like a madman, went blank for a second when he heard this. Am I not good to him? I give him food, clothes, a place to sleep. I let him enjoy the good life with me. Am I not good to him? There was no talking to him. I rolled my eyes. If you're really that messed up, when I finish my studies, I'll give you a free psychological evaluation. You're seriously sick. Sean rushed over, trying to take Martin away. Before leaving, he glanced at me with a frown. Kyle, you're getting more and more out of line. Don't upset Martin. Like hell. I couldn't be bothered with him. He then looked at Silas with disdain. You think he's really into you? He's only chasing you because I hypnotized him. That one sentence made two people's expressions change drastically. Silas's face darkened. Martin's anger turned to joy. Only I remained calm. Martin told Sean to break my hypnosis, saying he didn't want to see me clinging to his property. Logically, this wouldn't help Sean and Martin's relationship, but he didn't hesitate and really tried to break my hypnosis. I stood perfectly still, letting him wave his fingers. Silas moved slightly, then clenched his fists and lowered his hands. He unconsciously picked at the side of his index finger with his thumb. He would never force anyone to do anything. He would only endure it himself. This was a problem. It seemed I'd have to put some effort into teaching him. I grabbed his hand, forcing our fingers to interlock. I didn't let go even after the hypnosis was broken. Sean's expression went from confident to blank, and then to anger. Kyle, aren't you going to let go of him? Why should I? Sean, you're beyond stupid. You really thought you hypnotized me? That half-assed hypnosis technique you learned isn't even as good as mine. You should give up. Sean was stunned. Impossible. Then why did you kiss me? So many times. I wanted to ask the same thing. Yeah, why is that? His face gradually turned pale, and he gripped Martin's hand so tightly it hurt him, but he didn't notice. I know, it's because you like me. Then why are you still holding his hand? This scene was truly ridiculous. We were both clearly holding someone else's hand. What right did he have to question me? But what can I say? I'm a good person. He asked, and I knew the answer, so of course I had to reply. I swung Silas's hand and smiled. I have someone to thank for making me chase him. As I was chasing him, I accidentally fell for him. Our shade here is a treasure. Someone didn't cherish him, so I picked him up. Speaking of which, I should thank you both. Sean seemed to finally get it. You set me up? You deliberately pretended to be hypnotized to watch me make a fool of myself. Weren't you the one who set me up first? My voice was flat. Sean was so angry he let go of Martin and took a few steps forward, trying to touch me. We've been best friends since we were kids. Why did you lie to me? Silas stood in front of me, staring him down. You were the one who did something wrong to him first. You didn't cherish him. If it were me, I would be ecstatic just to have him near me. I wouldn't care why he was near me. Sean couldn't hear a word, only feeling like the whole world had betrayed him. They almost started fighting. Martin also looked like he wanted to have a go at me, but I was busy. I had just discovered something wonderful. Shade, you didn't stutter just now. Come on, let's go back. I'm throwing a party to celebrate. I'll invite everyone who's anyone to congratulate you. I pulled Silas to leave. Oh, and you two are not invited. I had my brother help Silas transfer his household registration. He became a single household. He didn't belong to anyone, only to himself. The price was my family providing a batch of medical equipment to the Johnston Corporation for free. The Johnstons generously let him go, because they believed the current Silas was useless to them. And just like that, Silas was free. He was so grateful he wanted to do anything for my family. He kept asking my brother what he could do. I had to drag him back. He didn't need to spend his life repaying debts, nor did he need to live for others. I wanted him to live for himself. Psychology is a pretty interesting field, especially for observing Silas. I've really fallen in love with this subject. I decided to go abroad for further studies. Besides, it was annoying seeing Sean and Martin around all the time, so I applied to study abroad. And I invited Silas to come with me. The application required a lot of information. My designation had been changed, but no one knew except for my family and Silas. Sean came to the classroom to find Martin, and while I was away, he looked through my application form. And just like that, he found out. He confronted me righteously. Why didn't you have your secondary presentation sooner? If you hadn't taken so long to present, Why would I have settled for Martin as a second choice? Kyle, don't go abroad. Stay by my side. Haven't you always liked me? I'll break off the engagement with Martin, and we can be together, okay? He grabbed my hand, his eyes red. I shook his hand off. Dude, are you an emperor or something? Are you picking out a concubine? Is this your property to be snooping through? Get back to your fiancé and lock it down, okay? Sean wouldn't leave. He was still making excuses. Trust me. My parents said I'm at that age, and they wanted me to choose an Omega for an alliance. Martin was the most suitable. If you had presented as an Omega sooner, I wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble. The one I like is you. Why else would my first thought be to hypnotize you? I laughed dryly. And that's your reason for inducing my presentation? Since we were on the topic, we might as well settle all old and new scores. I balled up my fist and punched him, knocking his face to the side. Are you fucking shameless? That felt good. My classmates all called me a T-Rex Omega. The betas and Omegas even applauded. Martin stood frozen at the classroom door, his eyes red and swollen. His tear-streaked face was truly a pitiful sight. So no one ever really liked me, did they? He pointed at me, his fingertip trembling. You both like this defective product? Well, he's pitiful, but he's also hateful. I heard he's pregnant. Because of his poor health, he can't just get an abortion. During pregnancy, he needs frequent pheromone exchange with the child's father. Their fate is no longer in their own hands. But that's not my problem. And it's certainly not Silas's problem. We have our own things to do. Right before I went abroad, I experienced my first heat. Silas believed I could find someone better than him in the future and didn't plan on having an intimate relationship with me. He seemed to want to put me on a pedestal as his benefactor. My brother, with his hot temper, threw us both into an isolation room. If you can stand by and watch him go through this, I'll let you be free. I wasn't forcing him. I also wanted to see if Silas could really bear to leave me, bear to let me go. What kind of love has no possessiveness? Turns out, Silas couldn't even last a minute. He confessed to me, trembling, I'm sorry. I should have confessed when you were lucid. But we have to be together first before we can do other things. I chuckled. My burning palm rested on his fluffy head. I panted, asking him, why are you stuttering again? I'm nervous. His face and ears were completely red. Even his beautiful, glossy dark skin couldn't hide it. I didn't have time for chit-chat. I sealed his lips with a kiss. I accept. Shade, you can mark me. Make me unable to ever leave you. Blood vessels crawled across Silas's eyes. For the first time, I smelled such a powerful and thick pheromone. It intertwined with my sweet, fruity scent, as if we were in a rainforest, humid and hot. Only by clinging to Silas, closely connected to him, could I find a trace of coolness. But he resisted the instinct to mark me. He would rather bite his own arm than my neck. Even as his arms and body held me in a possessive embrace, a thing of constrained beauty, he still said he couldn't cheat. He couldn't let the heat of the moment cloud his judgment and imprison my freedom. I was delighted by his consideration for me. At the same time, I was worried about his lack of trust in me. Wasn't this also a sign of his insecurity? We had just gotten together, so it was natural for him to feel insecure. I wasn't in a hurry. We'll take it slow. The days are long. People need time to drive away the shadows in their hearts before the seeds of love can sprout. Get enough sun, and they'll grow into a towering tree. Silas was a fast learner. In 5 years, he reached the same position as my brother. He was no longer insecure and finally had the courage to propose to me. But he was still not confident. He said, those stronger than me aren't as good-looking, and those more good-looking aren't as strong. Kyle, choose me. From now on, you are my master. My leash is yours to hold. Are you kidding me? He was always my only option. I raised an eyebrow. That's not how you ask, is it? Silas's eyes, which had always been empty and numb, now sparkled with starlight. He looked up at me with devotion, worshipping me. Kyle, let's get married. I gracefully extended my finger and watched him put the ring on it, his hand trembling. That's more like it. By the way, I ordered some things online that look a lot like this ring, but they're meant to be worn elsewhere. Silas was confused. What things? A bracelet? I lifted my foot and brushed it against his thigh. Baby, your innocence makes me feel a little ashamed. Come on, call me master, so I can hear it. Silas's eyes darkened, filled with overwhelming desire. He rubbed against my knee, his breath heavy. Master, spoil me. He really does have a bit of a submissive streak, which I also find pretty hot. This dominant submissive thing is delicious. I could eat him all up. Just kidding. Shade's stamina is no joke. I'm no match for him at all. He really doesn't make a sound in bed, but just his breathing is enough to drive me crazy. I'm the one who does the moaning. Silas loves to hear it, and I love to do it.